Ruth and I have been married for 6 years, and I'd be lying if I said the last 2 hadn't been a little rough. Not in a bad marriage kind of way, more like a ships passing in the night kind of way. She runs brand strategy at a mid-sized agency in Charlotte and got promoted to director around the same time I left my corporate job to get my logistics software company off the ground. Suddenly, we were both working 80-hour weeks, and most of our real conversations happened over cold takeout at 10 o'clock at night. So, when a project she'd been running for 8 months wrapped ahead of schedule on a Thursday and she called me during lunch to say she had a long weekend free, I closed my laptop and told her to start packing. We drove down to western North Carolina that same evening and found a motel in a small town called Brevard. That night, we had a real dinner together for the first time in probably 3 months. The hiking was actually her idea. There was a trail map in the motel lobby with a route circled in pen and a handwritten note taped beside it that read, "Worth it." Neither of us were serious hikers, but we had the boots and the time, so we figured, why not? We hit the trail early Saturday morning. The first few hours were exactly what we needed. The air felt clean, and for once, our phones were off. A couple of hours in, Ruth stopped and pointed out that we'd missed the trail marker we were supposed to watch for at least 20 minutes earlier. Neither of us had realized we'd hiked that far past it. "It's fine. The sun's still up. We can find our way back easily," I told her as I started walking again. About an hour later, I noticed everything had gone completely silent. The birds had stopped chirping. Even the wind wasn't moving through the trees. Ruth instinctively grabbed my hand and slowed down.
Ethan?
She pointed with a shaky finger. I followed her gaze and spotted a figure standing between the trees about 30 feet ahead of us. At first, I thought it was another hiker who'd stopped to check their phone or look at something. Then, the woman stepped farther into view, and I actually saw her. My stomach dropped. She was barefoot, wearing a thin, pale green hospital gown. The entire front of it was smeared with dirt and what looked like dried blood. A plastic hospital wristband still hung from her left wrist. Then, I noticed her neck. A row of stitches ran along the side of it, maybe 3 inches long. The skin around them looked bruised and swollen, as if the wound had been stitched recently. It took me a second to find my voice. I called out, asking if she was okay and whether she needed help. She glanced at Ruth first, before her eyes settled on me, and then she smiled.
You should come with me. I want to show you something.
Ruth immediately stepped in front of me.
Step back.
The woman's smile widened. Then she started clapping and laughing to herself like a lunatic. Between bursts of laughter, she slowly raised one hand and pointed toward a gnarly, crooked tree off to our left.
After I'm done taking your husband, I'll hang your body from that tree.
Ruth stiffened beside me. My skin crawled. We turned around and hurried back down the trail as fast as we could, without outright running. Behind us, we could hear her bare feet brushing through the leaves. She was following us, softly humming some kind of children's tune. Every few seconds, she said my name and begged me to stop and come with her.
I really have to show it. Come with me.
At first, her voice stayed calm and almost gentle, but the farther we got, the more it began to crack and warp until she sounded furious and desperate all at once. Then, she bolted. She grabbed me from behind and locked her arms around my chest. Her grip was impossibly tight. Even though I'm 5'5" and she was barefoot with fresh stitches in her neck, she dragged me sideways off the trail like I weighed nothing. Ruth was screaming beside me, and I was yelling and clawing at the woman's arms, desperate to break free, but I couldn't. My boots slid helplessly through the dirt. She nearly dragged me past the tree line when I heard a loud crack. Her arms went limp instantly, and she dropped like a stone. Ruth had grabbed a fallen branch from the ground and smashed it against the side of the woman's head. We ran the rest of the way back to the car without stopping. Ruth called 911 from the parking area while I sat in the passenger seat with my hands shaking, trying to remember how to breathe. We kept telling ourselves she was probably some escaped psychiatric patient who wandered onto the trail, because that was the only explanation that made any sense. Officers searched that section of the trail later that night. They combed through the entire area, including around that crooked tree she'd pointed at. All they found was the hospital gown lying in the dirt where she'd fallen. It was soaked through with blood. They found no sign of the woman herself, no footprints, no trail leading away. The wristband was still lying on the ground beside the gown. When they ran the ID, it came back to a patient who'd been discharged from a facility about 90 miles west a few days earlier. Current whereabouts unknown. I've gone back and forth ever since over what she actually was, but the truth is, I genuinely don't know. Life eventually slipped back into the usual grind of endless meetings and late-night takeout, but every now and then, in the dead of night or whenever we try to plan another getaway, the memory of that woman creeps back into our heads, and it always leads us to the same questions we can't answer. Who was she? What exactly did she want? And what the hell was she so desperate to show me?